Hello, singer. In this video, we're going to cover probably my favorite singing topic, which is expression, being creative with your singing, because singing isn't just about sounding good, sounding pretty, good vocal technique. It's not just about that. It's about expressing ourselves through song. So how do we do that? In this video, we're going to cover the strategy that I like to use when working on expression and really expressing the meaning of the song through facial expressions, gestures, body language, and even the way that I sing certain phrases or certain songs. We're going to talk about all of those things in this video. However, understanding that this is just the way that I like to approach this topic, okay? There are so many ways that you can express yourself when you sing, and I don't want you to feel limited by just what I'm sharing here. The purpose of me sharing my approach to expression is just to give you some ideas to work with, especially if you're new to performing and you really are kind of lost when it comes to showing up on stage and diving into things like stage presence. If you're completely clueless as to how to express yourself when you're singing on a physical level, we're going to be diving all into that topic in this video. The first step when it comes to bringing a song to life is understanding what you're singing about. So diving into the text, the lyrics of the song. And if you're singing a song that is from a musical or from an opera, you're also going to want to understand not only what you're singing about, especially if you're singing an opera in a foreign language, you'll want to do some of that translation. But you'll also want to understand what's going on in the plot of your musical or opera. So what's happening before you start singing this song? Why is your character singing this song? What's happening after your character sings this song? So understanding what's going on around this song in the show plot-wise, and really understanding the plot of the musical or opera that you're singing the song from. Now, for the rest of us that are singing pop music, rock music, anything that is not from a show, a few things that I like to work on with students are kind of really dissecting the lyrics. So understanding, okay, what's the main idea of this song? Like, what's the overarching theme? If there's multiple themes in the song, what are those themes? And then dissecting each section of the song. So understanding, okay, if I've got this song, for example, I was doing this with a student in a lesson this week on the song Change by Big Thief. It's a kind of alternative folk rock song. And so what we were doing was we laid out, okay, this song is talking about changes in life and how difficult those moments can be, how difficult change can be, and that kind of being our overarching theme and saying, okay, in the first verse, they're singing about this. In the chorus, they're singing about this, and this is kind of the main emotion. Diving into not only the meaning of what each section is saying, but also parsing out what emotions are kind of underlying the text. So in this song, Change, I think what we had discovered was the chorus was, even though it was talking about change and how difficult it can be, there was this kind of sadness underlying it. So we were like, okay, there's some sadness there. So identifying that as well. So not just understanding, okay, this section is talking about this, but here's the underlying emotion. And it's kind of an addition to this in understanding the text. And honestly, this is kind of like an extra credit assignment. So don't feel like you have to do this for every song that you listen to or sing. But it can be sometimes fun to see, okay, if this is a sad song that I'm singing, if the chorus is sad, what is going on musically, either with the notes that I'm singing or the notes that are being played in the background, like the instrumental? Are there things that are happening musically, like either with the notes I'm singing or even the way that it's being sung by the singer in the original recording? Are there things happening there musically that reflect that sadness? So understanding not only what's going on with your lyrics, but if you want to take it a step further and really add some layers to your singing and the way you're understanding the song, listen to what's going on musically. Does what's going on musically sound sad? Does it sound like a sad song in the background? Because sometimes, with certain songs, the singer will be singing about some kind of sad or even angry themes, but the music, so the vocals and the instrumentals, are kind of like peppy and kind of upbeat, I'm sure that we know of songs that sound like that. So it's kind of fun, or it can be an extra credit assignment, as I said, to kind of dig into what's going on musically too. Now, after you've determined what you're singing about, what's going on in the lyrics, the place I like to go to next with students is to create an image in your mind, a circumstance in your mind that you can tap into that reflects the situation of the song. And sometimes we'll develop some like imaginary circumstances. So like, for example, I was singing a song one time. It was The District Sleeps Alone Tonight, and it was a cover sung by Birdie. And the song is all about kind of like heartbreak and, the district that she's referring to in the song being like the District of Columbia, DC. And so when I was singing that song, since it was a song about heartbreak, I imagined myself, I created an image in my mind of sitting on the DC Metro, riding the DC Metro and crying. Okay. So that's a little bit dramatic, but that's just an example of the image you can create in your mind that relates to your song. And, in that situation, I was creating some imaginary circumstances. When it comes to doing this work, when you're working on a song, you're certainly welcome to draw from real life experiences. In fact, whenever I'm doing this work with students, I encourage them to create a scenario in their mind, creating a picture in their mind of a situation that feels real, like it could happen in real life. So, maybe not interacting with aliens, unless you really want to go there, that's totally okay. But creating a situation or a scenario that feels real to you, like it could happen in real life. And like I said, with this, you're going in with an understanding of, okay, this is what I'm singing about. What can I tap into in my mind? What sort of images can I pull up in my mind that help me connect with this song even more? Again, you can create those imaginary circumstances like I did. I mean, I've had students get really creative with their imaginary circumstances, where I had one student one time singing a Lana Del Rey song that was kind of like a toxic love situation. And so to connect with the song on a deeper level and create an image in her mind of like who she was singing to, if she was singing to somebody or if she was singing to herself, it was kind of like an internal thing. The image that she came up with was being at a beach house with her boyfriend and being in an argument with her boyfriend. So in that situation, she had an image of the beach house and she had an image of her boyfriend in front of her that she was arguing with. So really creating some specific circumstances. I think the more specific you can make that image in your mind, the better, because it helps you not only connect really deeply with the meaning of the song that you're singing, but I think when you find yourself in situations where you might get nervous on stage or in the audition room, in those moments, you can again tap into your imaginary circumstances. So what image did you create in your mind that you can then pull up and envision so you can kind of almost get out of your head a little bit? And as a quick note about this, you can certainly, of course, draw from real life experiences, but I will say when you're creating this image in your mind, when you're trying to tap into this emotional level of the song, I would try to stay away from really traumatic memories. So if you're singing a really sad song or a song that is very emotional in kind of a really heartbreaking way, perhaps not drawing on your personal traumas and your like those serious kinds of situations and experiences, just because I think it's important to have boundaries when it comes to our art and our life. So I'll share a story really quick, kind of as an example of why maybe drawing on personal experiences doesn't always work so well. Back in college, there was this class, this opera class, where you could sing your arias, sing your songs that are from the operas that, you're singing the aria from. And in this class where singers would share their arias, they would act them out for each other. There was this girl who sang this one aria that is already like a really dark aria. It's a really dark song. It's this nun who's singing about giving up her baby for adoption. It's a really sad song. And like she's like, the nun is like really heartbroken about it too. Like it's not like I gave them up for adoption and I'm cool with it. No, the nun was like really upset about it and really, really sad about this baby that she lost. And so this girl in the opera class that I was just mentioning, she was singing that song for the class, and she chose to draw on the experience and the sadness she felt from her grandmother's passing. So her grandmother had just died like 2 weeks prior to this. And so she was like, I'm going to draw from that kind of sadness. And she ended up on the floor sobbing. Like she couldn't continue singing the song. It just completely overwhelmed her. And so, not saying that's going to happen every time you draw from a personal experience, but that's just kind of an example of why having certain boundaries with yourself when you're connecting with songs emotionally, why having some of those boundaries is important. All right, and once you've got your imaginary circumstances or your picture in your mind of where you're singing this song, who you're singing it to, if you're singing it to somebody, when you've got that clear image in your mind of where this song is going to take place, I want to encourage you to get in front of a mirror and act out your lyrics. And this is going to sound absolutely crazy. With any of this stuff that I'm sharing, as I said in the beginning, these are all just suggestions. These are the things that work for me and my students, and you're welcome to take what resonates and leave the rest. But in lessons with students, I'll have them act out the lyrics in front of a mirror or kind of focusing on a point on the wall, that sort of thing. Acting out the lyrics to see, okay, this is the kind of max amount of emotion that I can bring to these lyrics. This is kind of what I can do to the extreme. So then you can take what you do when you're acting out the lyrics and dial that back, especially if it's like a pop rock song or like something that is not from a musical or an opera. However, if you are singing something from a musical or an opera, this work of acting out your lyrics can be one of the most helpful things, because then you're delivering it more like a monologue and you're getting a sense for like, okay, this is how I would say this and this is what it would look like on my face and kind of what body language I can use. All of that is going to be super, super helpful to you if you're singing a song from a musical or an opera. So I would probably not skip this step if you were working on a song from one of those. But if you're singing a pop song, anything not from a show, rock, soul, gospel, all that good stuff, you can take what you're doing when you're acting and dial it back. So just as an example here of a way in which you can act this out and then dial it back, I'm going to use a lyric from Change by Big Thief. So the lyric is, would you live forever, never die, while everything around you passes? So I could pretend to act this out. Maybe this could be a sort of more internal experience. Like maybe I am journaling these things to myself, okay? Or maybe I'm like just kind of sitting in my room or sitting in my house thinking about these things. And so I act it out in the way of like something like this. Would you live forever and never die while everything around you passes? With that kind of image in my mind of, okay, I'm sitting in my house and I'm thinking about these things, thinking these lyrics to myself as if they're actual thoughts that I'm having. And so I take that. So for example, again, would you live forever and never die while everything around you passes? So I take that experience of, okay, this is what my face is doing. I'm kind of wrinkling my brows a little bit. I'm taking that and going back to the singing of it, maybe not to that extreme where I'm like kind of, all of that. But when I go to sing it, would you live forever and never die while everything around you passes? And I know I didn't sing that right, but you can kind of see how I can take what I'm doing with my acting and then just kind of dial that back a little bit to sing the thing and taking it in that way. And I cannot emphasize this enough, but notice when you're acting out, your pop, rock song, alternative song, gospel song, when you're acting it out in front of the mirror, notice like, what is my face doing? What kind of body language do I have? Even noticing things like volume. So like, how loud am I saying this phrase? So like just now when I demonstrated that line from Change, it's a little bit on the softer side. So I take that volume into the singing of it as well. Because again, the goal here is really to take the emotional levels that are present in your song and really showing that in your body, in your facial expressions. So that way, when you get on stage or in the audition room or at karaoke night, that way you're not just standing there like a stick and sounding like this and looking like this, right? So this really helps us tell a story when we sing. All right, so just to kind of wrap up and recap what I shared in this video, when it comes to emotion in singing and really working on that skill, because this is a skill that you can build and that you can work on. The first step when you're working on any song is understanding, what are you singing about? And if it's a song from a musical or opera, what's going on in the show? And then secondly, what emotions are present in the song? And then taking all of that understanding of your text and creating some imaginary circumstances, creating an image in your mind of where am I when I'm singing this song? Who am I talking or singing to if I'm talking or singing to somebody? Or maybe, as I demonstrated before, it's like I'm in my room kind of envisioning that, singing and talking to myself, these things. So again, thinking of your imaginary circumstances, creating those in your mind, and then acting out your lyrics. Acting them out, taking them to the extreme, and then dialing it back, especially if you're singing something singing something like pop rock, anything that is not from a show. You can certainly dial back what you're doing. I hope that this makes sense to you. If you have any questions on this stuff, let me know. I will share, though, a question that I sometimes get when it comes to this kind of work. I've had students ask me before, like, do I really need to act out the lyrics to my songs, especially if it's like a pop song, rock song, something that, you're maybe not going to be acting out when you're on stage? And the answer, of course, is no, you don't need to do this. These are all just suggestions, things you can work with, techniques you can use when you're really trying to make a better and deeper emotional connection to your song. I always say, go with what works best for you. These are all just tools that work for me and my students, but you can certainly take what resonates, leave the rest, or do something completely different. The key here really is to make it your own, because you are not a machine. You're not a singing machine. The point of singing is not to sing perfectly and have good technique. It's to tell a story. So understanding what is that story and how can I show that? All right, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, just let me know. In the meantime, happy singing, y'all.